Hey everyone, I'm Skytrius and I'm making Todool. If you haven't heard about it before, it's one environment to do, make and create your to-do lists, and essentially it allows a few features like being able to go from this list-like mode to a Kanban mode and back and forth. At the same time, it provides a lot of features that are great. You can jump around certain areas that might be important to you, or jump from one bigger task to another. So very easily, very nicely like that. And you still have all the things like searching and all the good stuff like go-tos. Let me maybe just go ahead and create a shopping list. Vegetables, drinks. Just Control Enter to create it as a child. So ABC, for example, and then here ABC. And you see how simple that is, and then I can swap it back or swap it above. I can hide it. I can hide this one. I can complete these ones. I can cross off this one. It will go up the chain and then complete this one. So what I started doing this week, it's Monday right now, after the jam started, so I'm just trying to get in as much work as possible. And what I did today was, having like images, having image support for various images that you want. So you can see here I have my latest thumbnails. What I did for testing purposes is that I can drag in an image and you'll see it will be loaded in afterwards. Essentially the way it works is I spawn a thread that just loads the image instead of having it wait on the main thread. So what this allows us to do is to just have the main process run while it's loading up the image content, reading the PNG file in this case. So the plan is that I can add images, or someone drags an image in here and it will be added to a task and then it will be rendered in some way. That's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so it's Tuesday now. Yesterday I implemented the image loading, and today I implemented the behavior for loading the images into the tasks. So here in this folder I have two images from the last thumbnail, and I pretty much just drag them in, and you see they will be added to the task and be displayed on top of it. So if I hide this, it will hide away. So the only issue with this kind of style is it takes up a lot of space. You still want to see the content, but it still takes up a lot of space. And this is how it looks in Kanban mode. And then I made it also that if you click the image, it's gonna expand into this bigger image. You can hit escape too. And I also added right click to delete the image. So let's try that again. Let's load this one. So here I have two images like that. So I can just display them like that. As well as that, I also added the copy paste to also just copy the image handle. I also added this to the save scheme. So I can save it like that. I can go here and it's gonna load it back from that file path. I think I got pretty far with this. I like it personally. It's just, it takes up a lot of space, so I'm still not sure how well I like this or how much I would enjoy such a feature. And at the same time, you get the issues that I have to deal with relative paths. Maybe it would make more sense that you store the image maybe in the save file or something, but then the save file gets really big. So I think I'm just gonna leave this in for now. I like it personally, so I'm just gonna leave it in. So otherwise it would be wasted work. Let me know what you guys think. Hey, it's Wednesday now, and I thought about making an archiver. Often enough with to-do files, something that you want is to archive tasks. So say I want to remove these 4 tasks because I've done them, or let's, in this scenario, I've crossed them off and at some point I want to delete them, right? But say maybe you want to get them back, but you already closed your application. There's no way to get it back, right? So often enough what you will find is there's going to be some archive feature. So let's say I want to remove 4 tasks. What I can do is I can select them here. I can remove them with a command, and then I can go back here in the archive and I can actually see them in the order that they were removed, right? Now I'll use undo to regain those, but you see this one was pushed first, right? Then this one, then this, so on and so forth. Essentially this is append only, so I could kind of keep going. I'll undo, right? So it's just a big list of tasks that it keeps track of. So in case you delete something, this will store it. But this is just text, right? So there's a way to regain the text here. So the way I've done it, first let's just see the clear button. It does the obvious, it just clears all the archive entries. So you see I deleted them and I undid that, but they will still remain in the archive. What I can do now is I can actually select these tasks, or one task that I want, like the OS-based notification. I can say copy. And you see here on the bottom left now, I have a highlight of what currently is the copy command, or sort of what was the last copy command. Because in Todool there's a little bit of a difficulty knowing kind of what is going on right now. So you could have text box copying. So if I do Control-C now, it will copy the could word, right? And it will switch back to the last one was a copy of a text. So if I paste now, it's gonna actually paste a text. But let's say I copy a task like this, copy a task, because there was no word selection. Now I actually copied the task. So I could paste the task now, because the last command was a task copy. So essentially I'm using this now where I could copy text like this, but really what you want with the archive is to retrieve some old text, press the copy, you'll see it will essentially reset the copy buffer, and now I can paste it like I usually would if I would have copied a task here. Now the important thing here is that it will not store the state of a task. So if I delete this one and I copy this task, now it's not going to store the state, right? So it's essentially just text storing, which to me is honestly enough, but I could definitely see some use in that. It's just way simpler right now like this, and I think, let's say you want to go like back a month or so of like deleted text, then it just, the state does not matter anymore, right? Something that we can do as well is just select multiple ones here. So I can set the head and the tail as per usual, just by doing a shift select, and now it has all of these. So I can do a copy command and I can paste, and they'll be copied like they're being shown here. So very easy. I love this. You know, oftentimes something I had was autosave on, which would automatically save the Todool file on closing, and I didn't have a way to retrieve my old stuff that I like temporarily destroyed and just tested out, right? So for me this comes in handy in those kind of scenarios when I close my application like this. So let's say all of these tasks were deleted, and I mean that's also an example. It crashed now and I lost my data, right? I cannot retrieve it back because the save file doesn't allow me to do that. But what I can do now is I know the stuff that I had, which was, sadly didn't save the other stuff, but I can still do a copy and then retrieve some of the data back. But I think the archive makes a lot of sense in this regard. So let me know what you guys think about that feature. I think it's very handy to have and very easy to clear off, and the rest still works fine. And I also like the copy and paste separation here on the left. It's kind of hard to know what these do, but I can add some hover highlights. Yeah, this week I definitely wasn't that productive. I think it's mainly due to the jam that I just don't feel like programming as much of Todool. But I do want to show you what I did yesterday and today. So yesterday I mainly did bug fixes, and I also implemented the sidebar, which was on the left. I put it to the right now. Yeah, that was a suggestion from someone on Discord. I wanted to put the search bar on the bottom anyway. The sidebar here makes sense as text content would otherwise move around, so like that, right? I can understand where people are coming from that, so for now I think I'm going to leave it at that. I don't have an option to switch the panels, at least during runtime, and not in the config, so I don't know. If you guys want that, please let me know. Other than that, I worked on key mapping. In this iteration of Todool, I didn't have any sort of key mapping support, so I looked into how Nox does it for his application, and basically what he does here is he has this command parse internal, and he just compares to the command string. I thought about the format of key maps, so this is the format I went with. It's something custom, the keymap file. I thought about putting it in here in the sjson file. The problem arises here already, where it's like, okay, you want to have like move down, but move down should equal several things like down, control down, whatever, right? So there should be several options, and I didn't want to do this with an array first up because that's kind of bad, right? And also we need to allocate this in for the JSON, so that means preparing the content that will be pushed. So that's kind of terrible. But here the value really only needs to exist once, right? It doesn't matter if it exists multiple times in here, but it exists once in here. So all I really did was the box here. I just have a section going from box to end, and then Todool to end, and that's pretty much it. And then here I can have the command equal like 4 different combinations. So here's how Sublime does it, and I think this is, this is JSON, right? Okay, so here is unbinding, a keyboard command, so a combination to nothing, a combination to whatever command, right? But in my thing, it's now just going to be the command on the left plus several options, where here it would be you separate the array with another string. So here, I think that's a little bit bad, obviously, but Sublime has several other things coming with it, so arguments and such. So yeah, anyway, that's essentially the format, and you see it's pretty tiny. And really it's all about how do we save this nicely and how do we load it back. So let's just kind of go over that real quick. So essentially I just create an arena here with a megabyte, and we set the current allocator to it. So it's scoped, right? So at the end of the scope it's going to be removing all the memory, so I don't have to care about deletion. Here I just create a builder with 2 kilobytes because that's kind of the size I was aiming for. And then I have the shortcut state, and here's all the function, the thing for writing a section. So you can see I do write content with the box section with the keyboard commands for the box. So, and all that does is, if we jump back here, is it just writes the name or the section name with a new line. Okay, so here's the way I do it, is I wanted the value to only exist once, right? And essentially what I thought of was I'm just gonna create a map with the value here, right? So move left, and then we're just gonna have a builder, because what I'm gonna do is I just run through the array, through the mapping, and it doesn't matter in which way, right? So if it's unsorted or something, it doesn't matter. All I'm aiming for is to create a row for each, but not in the actual textual content, but rather in memory here. So essentially what I do here is I check if the row exists yet, and if it doesn't, I create a row, right? I create a row builder, so a string line like this, and I just say, okay, do the indentation plus the command, right? plus the equal sign plus the first command, right? Because there's always going to be at least one keyboard shortcut. In case there are multiple keyboard combinations for the command, I just say, okay, well, does this exist already? And if yes, do a white space separation and then add the string content afterwards. At the end of this, after I gather all the data, then I go through each row and I just write them, right, line by line. So that's the box section, and then the to-do section can use the same code for this because it's pretty simple. And then we just write to the file. Now the tough part is actually loading the file back with, you know, UTF-8 support and other scenarios. Essentially, I just load the byte content. I create an arena with the context allocator set to it. So here's a whole function to read a single section, and this is how I'm gonna do it. So section read the box section. I kind of have like a cap to expect how many lines there will be. So yeah, that's 11 lines plus, you know, how many keyboard combinations there will be. So I expect around 32, and yeah, we hit that kind of amount. Same for the to-do count. And actually what you can see here is the OR return. If you haven't known about this in Odin, if there's anything in Odin taking in a second parameter like OK, since loading a file could fail, right? We always want to check if it actually succeeded. So here I can just check, okay, did the file reading succeed or did it fail, right? And then I can say, if it fails, just return early, I don't care anymore. It's going to be a bad result anyway, right? You don't want to do anything coming after this. And here you can see I also do this for the section reading. So if anything goes wrong in here, if anything is invalid or if the file format, something failed about reading it, I just want to stop early and abort everything and just load the default keyboard commands. So the way this would look is something like this. Here's a loaded result from the keymap loading. If it failed, please push the to-do and the default content, and then I say load failed. And yeah, that's essentially how it would look, right? Because you don't want the content of a bad read to end up in your shortcuts. So that's mainly something I had to consider, and something I didn't do earlier. That's why I also allocate these in a separate map. So I create a map here myself. And then later on, we just clear the shortcuts if everything succeeded. So if everything succeeded and we get to this point, I just clear the shortcuts in case there was anything set. And I set my custom allocator again from the shortcuts. And we just push, and all the clones here will use the allocator. Yeah, it cannot get simpler than this, and I really, really like this. And all I do for the section reading is also pretty simple. Pretty much the first line. If we reach the end line, we just stop for that section. And it's gonna modify the content here, so we're gonna start from here and we'll just be consuming this string content line by line. Next up, I pretty much just look for the section. So if we need to find this, otherwise we cannot check for these lines. In the end here, I can say, for example, as well, okay, we read everything, somehow we ended up reaching the end. Is the mapping not empty? And did we find the section, right? So only then it's valid. And essentially what I just do here is I read through the line with some UTF-8 business. I just check if the first word is valid, or, you know, we trim the white space. And then I also check for the equal sign. So this is invalid, right? I just want a consistent style of the format. This is still allowed, having whatever many white spaces, so that's fine. And then the combinations are separated with white space. It's also fine to have unlimited white space here. And yeah, that's essentially how that works. And I just check for the word start, so here till we hit white space, Or at the end of the line, I just check, did we find a word yet? And if we're at the end of the line, just take the whole word. And I also have some checking for if it was just a white space line. So yeah, just hopefully a short walkthrough of how I do keymap loading and saving. So with that said, I think I'll be taking a bit of a break on the weekend just to focus purely on the handmade jam. Yeah, keep that in mind. That's gonna be the end of this video for now. Thank you guys for watching. Like I said, this week I was working on the wheel reinvention jam project as well. I'm not sure how much video material there's gonna be for that. I was also recording that. Also, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I just want to thank the Patreons I have right now, which are Idi112, Brandon Punsky, and Julian Revell. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, have a great weekend, guys.